want to, serve the Lord with their gift for free. It's good and commendable. Yeah, and especially in situations where churches don't really have the funding to work with professional musicians, it's good. But there is a downside to working with volunteers as well. And the downside is that music that they volunteer for at the church, it's not their main priority. It's not their first goal, okay? It's not what their allegiance is towards. Their main priority is the day job that actually feeds them. Now, if you know anything about music, you know that you need to dedicate several hours a day towards music in order to achieve certain goals and to maintain a certain level of professionalism. Now, picture someone who wakes up early, does a 12-hour shift, and comes home. That person will not have time to sit and work on music, on honing their skills. Okay? They might have the opportunity to, do something maybe on a Saturday before the church, an hour before, a day before, but they don't have the ability, or they seem to not have the ability to be able to do it every day for a few hours, week in and week out, because the job is the priority. What feeds them is the priority. That is the nature of human beings. What feeds you is what you make a priority. So what it does is that now you end up having a lesser quality or grade or skilled musician because they only do this part-time. Okay, whereas if you had someone who did this for a living, they would be at a much higher place in terms of skill, you see. So it compromises the skill because people seem to not have the time in most cases to do what needs to be done the proper way. Okay? Now, hear me carefully. I'm not dissing volunteers. I'm not looking down on volunteers. They're some of the most passionate and committed people I've ever met. But in terms of the output, it's just not the same. So I think that if a church doesn't have funding, the right type of funding, then they should go ahead and use volunteers. Two, if a church doesn't have any goals in terms of the musical growth, if they are fine with just whatever is being done, then they can go ahead and have what you call volunteers. It's not a problem. But if a church really wants to get their music to a international or for lack of a better word, on par with the industry, on par with professionalism, then volunteers will not work because they will not be able to put in the time. Okay? We are well aware of the part that good music, plays in church growth and as a deciding factor as to whether people want to be part of a ministry or not. So if that is part of your goals, then you will need to get to a point as a church where you invest in full-time musicians who okay, these guys will bring their A game, these guys will do their very best. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying do away with volunteers. What I'm saying is it depends on how far you want to go and what you want to achieve in terms of music in that ministry. That will be the deciding factor. Okay? So keep in mind at all times that these two people will never be the same. A guy who wakes up from 9 to 5 and goes to work, that's where his allegiance lies. Okay, if that same job requires him to not be at church on Sunday, chances are he's not going to be at church on Sunday because his allegiance, his loyalty lies with the job. That's the job that pays him, covers his bills. If you have someone who works in music full time, they will go where the music requires them to go because it's the music that feeds them. You see? So go always consider what you want for your church in terms of music and let that guide you. And you shouldn't have a problem. And when it's like that, it's easier for everyone.